Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2025. I hope you are well. We're using the Crow Tarot for you today, which is quite interesting because it hasn't come out for a while. Anyway, before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via, I think it's the first link in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Or alternatively, you can come and join the private community over on the Circle platform. That's the Order of the Phoenix. There you can get access to all of the extended content that I do every month, which isn't just all the monthly extendeds, but also weekly energy readings and whatnot. You can hang out with an extraordinary group of people, and you can participate in the live classes that we run over there a couple of times a month on all sorts of things, not just tarot. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link, right? Cancer, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Apologies for the delay in getting this to you. Just the fucking cascade of circumstances. Anywho, let's get 3 cards for Cancer, please. There we go. So we have the 6 of Wands on its side for your recent past. What about current energy, please, for Cancer? 7 of Pentacles also on its side. And what's coming towards Cancer? No, I'm not taking fucking 27 cards. Yes. I'll tell you what is interesting though. The High Priestess has come, has shown her face, and that's interesting. Let's get the card out for September before we incorporate the High Priestess in there, because I think she's probably going to prove to be quite important. About this, right? We have the Star. Now, 9 of Swords is at the bottom of the deck, and I'm not really that surprised given what we see going on here. Do you know what's really quite interesting? The Star and the 9 of Swords also featured quite prominently for another sign, Sagittarius, I think it was. And I wonder if some of the messages might end up being very similar. Anywho, the High Priestess lends an angle of acceptance to a situation. Now, we've got quite an interesting month in September. There's a lunar eclipse in Pisces. There's a solar eclipse in Virgo. So, you should look to that part of your chart to see which houses are covered by those signs. We're definitely going to see some sort of movement in those houses. Sorry, I'm pausing a moment because the meditation that I did before I started your reading was very, very intense. I didn't necessarily feel anything, but there was a really strong pull deep. Really, really deep. Very, very internal. That's why I said I felt like the High Priestess would turn out to be really quite important. Whenever the High Priestess shows up, we do have themes of acceptance, because she's not a very active card. It's about being a conduit and allowing things to move through. But when it comes to the processing of what is going on inside, I feel like the High Priestess can be a very useful ally in that. Now we come to a point where we realise that maybe you've knotted yourself up a little bit in your head, but we have a breakthrough moment with the Star. And the breakthrough internally is possibly what will lead to the breakthrough externally. And we certainly are aware that things are less than optimal in your current environment. I wouldn't say they are, I was about to let slip with all sorts of invective, but maybe let's not do that right here. They could be better. Let's just put it that way, right? Certainly things could be better, although they are not at their worst point. But the feeling that something needs to change is very, very strong. Now, let me get some cards on the table here. Tell me about the 6 of Wands. Right. Knight of Wands, 7 of Wands, 5 of Pentacles. Makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the 7 of Pentacles, please. We have the Chariot. There you are, Cancer. And we have the Queen of Pentacles. And what about star. Talking about the star, we've got the Knight of Pentacles, Virgo energy, and we also have the Queen of Wands, which for me is Aries. Now, here's the thing. And here's the thing that I think maybe you haven't noticed, Cancer. No shade, I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, you know, you haven't noticed it because maybe you weren't supposed to notice it. You are at a crossroads. Ah, okay, thank you. I'll take the correction. The correction is that you do know you're at a crossroads. You're just not entirely sure what to do about it because there are things that are wrong and we're not quite sure what those things are. I'm talking collectively. It's like something's got to shift, something's got to move, but it feels like it's an order of magnitude bigger than anything that is necessarily presenting itself as an option for an alternative in the here and now. Like, there's a lot that seems like it's firefighting going on in your life at the moment rather than some sort of not even necessarily open path, but just you know, something that feels vaguely linear, such that we can go from A to B. Like, that seems to be not here. And maybe it is that you're lurching from crisis to crisis. That's possible. But it just feels like everything's so much smaller than it should be. I wonder if part of what the issue is with the Two of Wands, this crossroads that you're aware that you're at, is that you already know where it is that you want to go. And that circumstances, maybe other people, are what you're relying on to kind of sort themselves out, to give you the space to move on, right, to the next phase of the journey, whatever it is. Right, let me get my little bit of selenite here. As we start off over here with the Six of Wands on its side. Now, this doesn't all go, you know, terrible, terrible things. The Six of Wands in the upright talks about victory. It talks about success. But specifically, it talks about a kind of rather conspicuous public success. And therein immediately is a problem, because there's something here that's gone on for you that feels like it should be really, really positive. It's a big win for you. But it seems a little bit like the people around you seem only to be focused on how it affects them. I do think that I'm going to pull out this deck here while we're talking. Right. It doesn't really undermine the level of victory, but it does rather knock it off its off the point of it being a sort of shared celebration where you are the one being celebrated in it, right? We've got the Knight of Wands, we've got the Seven of Wands, and we've got the Five of Pentacles. Like I said, it seems to be people focusing on what your movement will mean in terms of them for instability. And I do think that some people have been giving you the impression that you are being in some way reckless or thoughtless or impetuous with the way that you are pursuing this thing that's felt like a victory to you. I mean, there's a natural follow-on from the Six of Wands to the Seven of Wands, obviously, right? And even in just the way that these two move together, we could say in this instance that that maybe there's a little bit of tall poppy syndrome going on here, right, Cancer? You've grown a little bit too high, you've got a little bit too successful, and people are seeking to chop you down. The battle in at this point will always be how not to internalize those kind of energies coming from other people, right? So that you get to the point where you do think you're being maybe reckless, or you do think you're being thoughtless, or you do think you're being, you know, far too spontaneous, or rushing something, or doing something too fast. Like, I feel like you are the subject of some fairly epic projections at the moment. The fact that we've got the Nine of Swords down here and the Two of Wands means to me, I think, and we can see this moon in the background here. Moon is it's a Cancer symbol for me. It's almost like it's occluding the brightness of your shine with these swords being in here. Like, this is the reaction from other people, and to some extent or another, whether you wanted it to be that or not, it is starting to dull the shine on what it is that you have achieved for yourself. That's how I'm reading these cards here. Right, so we have the Emperor on its side here. That's Aries energy, but principally it's about yeah, it's about structure and order, right? It's being a figurehead of something. Whenever the Emperor's involved, it's somebody who's in charge of their shit, right? The thing is, although this is the energy with which with which you've been working, there has been a plan here. There has been something that you've executed, and you've done it very, very well. But people are coming along with a chainsaw, and they seem absolutely hell-bent on taking this shine off this achievement for you. It makes me think of the Sycamore Gap, this tree on its side here. It's like people have tried laying down the law at you, and it didn't work because you've got your shit together. So now they're going about it in different ways, and it's left you kind of spinning in the middle, feeling like you are needing to be permanently trying to fucking defend yourself. But what's problematic about that is that there has been a little bit of an internalization of this. There is a little bit of doubt. There is a little bit of worry. And I think you're working really, really hard to make sure that that does not escalate at any point. Because the movement... Sorry if you can hear my stomach rumbling. I ate a bit of toast. That was a mistake. The problem here for you is that the movement isn't happening. Not yet. Right? It's difficult to get excited and G'd up about what it is that you're doing, because at the moment you're kind of in this state of stasis, which makes you perfectly positioned to be a target for people who have an issue with what it is that you're doing, whatever that may be. Now we notice that we have the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Cups showing up here. And it does rather put it in the position of not exactly a test, but a challenging experience for you. Like, can you break through this? Can you hold on to what you know to be true? Can you hold this relationship that you have with yourself as sacred, that cannot be polluted by the opinions of people who are simply trying to chop you down? That's a very difficult space to be in. And I can see why the Nine of Swords is showing up. I mean, for me, it's a neutral card in so much as it talks about how you are able to control your mind, right? And I think there are so many things that are really amazing on the horizon for you, and yet there's some part of your inner landscape that is having to wall off the excitement that is associated with that, with no outlet, for the benefit of other people around you. Now, I don't know how close these other people are, but I would, the fact that there's the possibility of you internalizing what it is that they're saying suggests to me that it probably is people who are closer to you. But I could absolutely see this being you having gone for some sort of new job or a promotion or something like that, and your boss perhaps having a problem with this, right? Realizing that you are no longer as under their control as they would like it to be, as they would like you to be. And then having to suffer the consequences of that effective fall from grace within the workspace, right? That totally could be a way that this has played out. But it could be other things. It could be friends. It could be family members. It could be full-on spouses. It depends, who you've got around you. You're going to take it as it resonates to you. But I do think it's this holding pattern that you feel like you have been in for a while now, where there's that amazing thing that's up ahead, but it's not quite here yet, and we've got to deal with the consequences of everybody trying to chop you down while you're waiting for things to happen. It's incredibly frustrating. And what's kind of more frustrating than that is the fact that you don't feel like you can be authentic in this moment with the joy, maybe I don't know, maybe a little bit of pride. We'll be careful with pride, right? But in what it is that you've achieved. There isn't a sense of you being celebrated, Cancer. And if this was anybody else, you would be there with them celebrating. And for some reason, it's not been reciprocal. You have not had this back at all. And so that pulling down deep that I was feeling in the meditation before I started your reading, it feels like it's the natural effervescence of your energy, right? That wants to be in a state of celebration. It's actually having to be hauled down and anchored to something really, really deep and then held there. And I think the longer that this situation has gone on, the less and less authentic that you felt about whatever the future might hold, and certainly, your current situation. And the more it's given space for worry to start surfacing, anxiety to start surfacing, doubting yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Does this person have a point? So on and so forth. Ace of Swords and Ace of Cups are like, you believed in this enough to make it happen. And now we've got the space between having accomplished that and the actual experience of it. And we just have to get through here intact. Now, when we come to your current energy, we have the Seven of Pentacles on its side, which is very interesting. And then we have the Chariot and the Queen of Pentacles. Like I said, Chariot is Cancer in the Major Arcana. And whenever we have a sign that is showing up as themselves in a reading, we don't just have the base meaning of the card. We are also tapping into something on the level of identity. And this is why it's really important that it's showing up here. I had an interesting thing the other day. I hadn't really thought about it, but it made sense. When you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, with everything except the stuff right at the bottom, food, shelter, that kind of thing. Everything else happens on the level of identity. And I was like, oh, that's a fascinating point. So when themes of identity come up for us, they're always a lot more important than how well do I sit in my skin? Am I feeling comfortable at this given moment, right? It actually colours every single aspect of, your needs, your fulfillment, all this sort of thing. So we've got the Queen of Pentacles showing up next to it. And for me, the Queen of Pentacles is the Queen of self-care. It's the Queen of value, where value is, where it lies, and where it can be enhanced by continual investment, principally around the self, although we can see it with other people too. Queen of Pentacles is, for me, the Queen of self-care, and recognising where thought and energy and effort needs to be put into us in this moment, right? I'm talking collectively about Cancers, right? But these are showing up underneath what is going on up here. Now, the Seven of Pentacles is one of those cards that actually I think is good whichever way it turns up, although, I may be relatively unique in that position. It's not necessarily something that you would find written in a book anywhere. And for me, the reason why is this. The Seven of Pentacles is a pause. It is a stop. While we are taking stock of the environment, we are looking around and we're saying something about the environment is off. Something about the environment I don't really like. Now, when it's in the upright like this, we don't necessarily have the answer as to what that is yet. We don't really know what it is that we're looking to change. But the fact that we have stopped, the fact that we have paused, the fact that we are taking stock, meaning that we are open to possibilities of seeing things that we didn't see before, even recognising where we've outgrown certain situations in a way that we didn't recognise before. It's all encapsulated by the energy of this card, right? When it shows up in the reverse, I feel like there is no doubt, there is no uncertainty about what that thing might actually be. We've worked it out, we're on our way, we're good, everything's golden. I can't remember the last time I saw this card show up sideways. Now, that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened recently, right? My memory is, or lack thereof, is the stuff of legend, right? But there are two main ways that I read sideways presenting cards when they show up. The first is that this is an energy that is on the move. So perhaps we are going from here and we are going to arrive up here. But as things stand, at the point where we are, you know, at the point where you and I are talking, it's here. The penny hasn't fully dropped yet, but we're definitely headed in the right direction. The other thing that this card can represent, or this position of card can represent, is an energy that is there, but that is not yet entirely activated. Now, I could see how that would be the case if a lot of what you are dealing with at the moment feels to you like it is it's kind of a feat of endurance that you are trying to work through at the moment, right? It's like, don't know when the end point for this space that I'm in is going to hit. Kind of frustrated, kind of having to anchor down everything that is, you know, naturally wanting to erupt from me. I want to keep it stuck for the benefit of other people. Essentially, that internalized state that I was talking about, right? We're not looking around at what is wrong outside of us because we're just saying, well, something about me is clearly very upsetting to people around me, right? My decisions, my choices, my actions, my plans for the future, so on and so forth, right? But I think your situation is showing you something that you have not quite seen yet. Maybe best put like that. And it's because we have things happening at the level of identity. I'm wondering if there's some aspect of this that is making you strong, Cancer. But I want to say that sentence with the caveat that this is the caveat that this is a very careful line that one must walk along. Now, Cancer is renowned for being kind of, or having the ability to be very, very closed, right, emotionally, like that armoured shell anchoring down, tunneling under the sand. And that isn't always the best route forward for Cancer. But at the same time, there's a level of internal discipline that is going on. And we've got a Queen of Pentacles that represents Capricorn, right? So internal discipline plays a part in the interpretation of these cards. But it's that really, really fine line that I feel like you are worried that you are already walking and maybe slipping off a little bit, where there is no opportunity for expression of a real authentic sense of joy, that you have a really authentic sense of victory. And that's a problem, because we always want to be showing up as our authentic self. But at the same time, I feel like the biggest problem is that you have outgrown your surroundings, Cancer. You know, whoever is in those surroundings and whatever they represent to you, you're no longer in alignment with what they are, because you've already made the decision to move on. Four of Swords. It's like holding a very delicate tension, state of tension. Yeah. I feel like what you're putting up with in your environment is kind of wicking away joy. But there's something interesting that's happening here as a result, which is to say that it seems to be opening your eyes in a way that you were not able to see before. We've got the Ten of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, so we could absolutely be talking about family here. Family cohesion, family union, right? Where you assumed that your family always wants the best for you and always would be supportive in some whatever action you took to improve yourself. I think the evidence that you're being presented with is that's not actually true. And I could see how that would really wound a Cancer. And whilst it seems to be wounding you, at the same time it is opening your eyes to truth on a level that you couldn't really perceive it before. So whatever this internal fine line is that you're walking at the moment, I actually think it's the right place for you to be, because you're dealing with the emotional stuff that it's bringing up, but you're also able to utilize the swords to see everything a lot more objectively than perhaps you've seen it before. To wit then, you know, this card, whether it's in the upright or whether it's in the reverse or whether it's appearing on its side here, there's something innately within you that has understood that your internal space and your external space should be in alignment. They should reflect each other, but they don't. Which means that the time that you have to be here is relatively short. And whilst there might be all sorts of frustration bound up with the fact that it's not short enough and we're not out of here yet, I do think that there's something, although I was saying before it seemed to be making you strong, it's because it's making you look at things you didn't want to see. And it's making you size them up and assess them a lot more objectively than perhaps you naturally would have done before. Now we see this Nine of Pentacles here is it's a strong card of independence, and I do feel like whatever you're doing, Cancer, you're kind of striking away from the herd in order to do this. Some aspect of this is about your self-improvement, and there's no doubt at all that there will be that your loss will be felt in the broader collective of your space when you leave. But that really shouldn't be sufficient for everybody to try and dull your shine about this, right? It's obviously time for the collective experience, whether that's your work or whether that's your family or a friendship group or whatever, to kind of shake itself up a little bit, renewal being a strong word there. But I don't feel like that's what you're getting off people. So turning inwards, going really, really deep, at the point where you're kind of, you know, anchoring down those bigger feelings that you've got, although it feels like it's being inauthentic, what it's actually doing is giving you an opportunity to examine while you're there. Because it would be easy to lose focus with this because it's exciting and because it's joyous and because it will change everything. It's like a little bit of shadow work, a little bit of wound examination, a little bit of dealing with the hard reality of life, the hard reality of your view of reality before you move on to the next step. I think it's really important that it's happening, and I can understand why the feeling that you can't be authentic would be making you uncomfortable. But I think you're digging for a deeper level of authenticity. Because when we come into September proper, we've got the Star, we've got the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. And I think whatever has been suppressed, whatever it has that has been anchored down, we've got stuff starting to move here. The Queen of Wands is showing up. Whenever the Queen of Wands shows up, we have high visibility. Always, right? The Queen of Wands can't help but draw attention to herself. She doesn't do it on purpose. It just happens, right? It's her energy. It walks into a room before she does. And we also have the Star, which also has with it this idea of increased visibility, right? Tall poppy. But the tall poppy is not stopping at, you know, a head or two ahead of everybody else. Like the tall poppy is growing. Maybe you were never were a poppy. Maybe you were a tree. Who knows? right? But I think that what we've got showing up here in September are cast iron moves forwards. Still slow to some extent, because we do have the Knight of Pentacles as that movement point there, and that's not to be rushed. But it is methodical, it is meticulous, and things are moving as a result. Now, it's interesting that we have solar eclipse in Virgo happening later on in the month. So we have the solar energy of the Queen here representing fire, and we've got Virgo represented by the Knight of Pentacles. I do wonder if what we've got is potentially a slow road up to the solar eclipse, and then things start to move very, very quickly, or actually this all just takes the time that it takes, but it is moving forwards, and it's much easier to see it moving forwards post-eclipse versus pre-eclipse. Tell me more about these two characters. We've got, interesting, we've had a lunar eclipse in Pisces as well. So we've got the Knight of Cups, we've got the Page of Pentacles, and we've got the Two of Cups with the Tower here. Possibly, I think, at this point, what we've got is a state of intervention. Somebody's coming along to speed up the process. Now, it's still not going to go fast, and this is really important that you're aware of this, Cancer. It's still not going to go fast, but there's something about your star on the rise where, you know, without wanting to be a bit twee and cliched about things, that is unstoppable and irrepressible here. Because you're moving out of an environment that was not supportive to your growth, and you're moving into one that is supportive of your growth, right? The Two of Cups indicates people who see things the same way as you do. And I do feel like this feels, particularly with this Tower card, like it kind of feels like somebody's stepping in to assist you with something. So whatever's been slow starts to pick up a speed. But there is a value that has been drawn somehow by the experiences that you've had over here, as uncomfortable as they have been. I think principally because what they've told you on the level of your own identity, right, and your own pain and your own view of the world, your own emotional state that seems to have been run through by the truth of, you know, how people actually feel and how people will actually respond to you when you're doing well. And here's the Tower. I feel like the Tower is the change of direction that is created by somebody stepping in to assist here. Because there's only so long you're going to be able to keep all of this down. And actually, I feel like September is a month where everything starts to leap forwards. Slow at first, but gaining momentum and gaining speed. This here, the intervention, perhaps by somebody in authority. We've got the Hierophant underneath there, right? Who knows the system and knows how things work. Stepping in to kick all this up to high gear, such that then you will not have to repress to the same extent that you have been doing, but understanding the value of why you've done it in the first place, what it's given you, what it's shown you. I think you've come out of this process a lot wiser than you were before, certainly with your eyes more wide open. You know, I feel like the biggest issue that Cancer always has to deal with is the realization that love is not enough for anything at all, and your love isn't enough to carry other people such that they are capable then of giving you back the same level of love that you are capable of giving. I feel like there's something within the Cancer experience that is always having that shown to them, right? And sometimes it's because Cancer's over-invested, emotionally speaking. But I think certainly with the work that you have done on yourself over the last few years, like that is less of an issue than it ever has been. And now it's more about, when it comes down to it, when you're doing well for yourself, will people step out of their own kind of Five of Pentacles state enough to support you, congratulate you, you know, be there with you and share in your joy? Or will they try and cut you down? And I think you've been shown what the truth of the matter is. I do think, though, that for all of you Cancers, you are moving into a situation that is much more fucking supportive. It's much more in alignment with who you are now. And it all starts here, or it all starts to take off from here. Because actually, realistically, it started already and it's been going for a little while. But here's where it starts to be visible properly, not just to those people who are closest to you, but en masse, more expansively speaking. Now, I don't know what this means, Cancer, but like, I'm here for it all fucking day long. Like, you earned it. You earned this back here, but you've doubly earned it by spending the time in careful contemplation of self. I love to see this. I really do. Now, and if this reading resonates with you, please put down in the comments what it is that you've achieved. Like let the collective come and cheer you on if you've not been getting it where you know, from those people closest to you. There's a big move here, Cancer. There's a big move, and it's the getting you just that, not just a little bit actually, getting you considerably closer to what you've been working towards for ages now. Now's where it starts to pick up, slow at first, but then I think with the intervention of somebody, moving faster from there. Very good. And I like this very much. Right, I'm going to go to the extended now. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie. You can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your thing, that's fine. Just know that the torture stops soon, right? And I do feel like you've been feeling it was tortuous. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.